and then he decompresses, and then he gears up, he gets his psychic energy, his emotional energy, his physical energy, and then boom, he's out at it again.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have Vikram Raya. Vikram is a trained cardiologist and functional medicine physician. He's an international speaker, high-performance coach, and a real estate expert. He's been active in real estate since 2015 as the founding partner and CEO of Viking Capital Investments. As a real estate investment private equity firm, Viking Capital is approaching 4,300 units and $600 million of assets acquired. Vic was elected into the Forbes Business Council, was commemorated by U.S. Congressman Tim Connolly and Don Beyer into Congressional Record for excellence in entrepreneurship. And he's helped high achievers, doctors, and other professionals around the world achieve ultimate vitality, financial abundance, and a bulletproof mindset through his coaching, Limitless MD. He recently gave a keynote lecture at the CNN headquarters in Atlanta with Dr. Oz on entrepreneurship. And he's the recipient of the prestigious Outstanding 50 Asian Americans in Business Award on Wall Street. Most recently, he's made the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing private companies in the U.S. Vic, welcome to the show, my friend.
Chris, I'm excited to be here, buddy. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So I think it's great for the audience to know that we first came to know each other a few years ago when we bought a deal from your group, Viking Capital, down in the Atlanta market. And that might surprise some people that heard the intro and they said, wait a minute, you got a cardiologist? What's going on? So I guess first off, Dr. Raya, tell us a little bit about, your background in cardiology and when did you make that switch to doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, Chris, it's interesting. We got a lot of similarity. I mean, you're a device, scientist, if you will, or a device lead salesperson, and you were able to sort of navigate toward real estate and investments, and now you've become sort of a financial guru, a wealth coach, and sort of a multifamily master. And that was sort of a similar journey that I took too. Like I loved what I was doing as a cardiologist, and I did it because, I mean, hell, I had 6 people in my family die of heart attacks while I was training. And so while I was training internal medicine is sort of a gateway profession. And a lot of people end up staying as internal medicine, which is primary care. Or you say, hey, you know what? I want to specialize, become a GI doctor where we take care of the gut and the colon and all that. Or I want to be a neurologist, take care of the brain. Or and in my case, I was like, I need to be a cardiologist, take care of the heart. So I'm like, let's go all in. And that was my dream. And it was interesting, like our dreams in our 20s and 30s, like they evolve sometimes. And so like I dove into it. I loved what I did. I started practicing, but I noticed that, a lot of people around me weren't very happy. And they were also doing things just for the sake of money. And that's one thing I swore to myself I would never do. So I was like, what's the smart way to think about this? Well, it's what you teach, Chris. Hey, how do you diversify income? So I wanted to create multiple streams of income. So I had my hands at options trading, and I got my butt kicked. I didn't understand it. It was complex. And as Warren Buffett says, invest, or invest or go into things that you have a capability of understanding. So I was like, well, I know even simple people can make money in real estate. Let me go into that. And
I heard this guy, Chris Larson, was doing okay. He can do it.
Right. And I was like, it's not in real estate. It's really not about IQ. It's about tenacity, perseverance. It's about looking at patterns. It's riding the waves sometimes. And it's also one thing that I find very forgiving in all the business I've been exposed to in my life. Real estate's quite forgiving. If you can hold on, there's always going to be an opportune time to sell, and you will make money.
That's
so that being said, all right, let me start at the bottom. I tried wholesaling. I was like, this is too freaking hard. I was running a cardiology clinic, and someone was telling me I have to keep flipping real estate. No way. And I ended up trying, I was trying to buy single family homes in DC, too expensive. So then partnered with dad in Atlanta and said, hey, I'm in DC, you're in Atlanta, let's buy some homes. Built up a small portfolio, private portfolio, about 30 homes. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is exciting, but ain't going to retire me. So then I heard that I talked about syndications and multifamily. I'm like, oh, that sounds sexy. It also sounds illegal, but let me look into it. And, to cut a long story, I went from owning a couple of homes and that kind of thing, to now, we're at the point where we're at about $700 million acquisitions, approaching 5,000 doors. I have a team. I have a business partner named Ravi, who's also a physician.
Yeah.
And now I've sort of transitioned to making this sort of my main thing. But what happened in COVID was an interesting thing. So real estate gave me the keys to the kingdom. It gave me time freedom and financial freedom, but it allowed me to pursue my passions. And one of my passions was health and wellness and biohacking and anti-aging. And so I opened up a clinic called the Vitality Institute in DC, where I was literally taking people who've had heart disease and, diabetes and blood pressure, and we're reversing it. And then during the COVID crisis, I shut my clinic down. And so I made it more of a virtual clinic. But I noticed doctors were coming to me and saying, "Hey, I love what you're doing. You're doing real estate. You're doing this wellness institute. Can you coach me?" Now that's when the whole coaching thing happened. So that's where we are now, Chris. I have Viking Capital, my real estate, Limitless MD, my coaching, and Vitalogy is my health and wellness institute.
Yeah, which we can see over your left shoulder there, and I love that. And I really want to focus, specifically on your coaching today, Vik. But I want to touch on something. So one of the things, when I was with Medtronic, they had this rule that you couldn't fly in a private plane with doctors. And, there's some statistics out there that doctors die in fairly high frequencies and plane crashes. And people say, oh, doctors make terrible investors. And look, I'm not the doctor here, so I want to get your thoughts on this. But the idea is, doctors are very intelligent. They think they can outsmart the system. Where the flip side is, I spent, as you mentioned, basically my entire career working with doctors, working with surgeons and specialists. And as part of that, I got to train reps. And as part of that training, you learn about communication and different communication styles. And one thing that I found interesting was that doctors always had a component of an analytic style. And there's different ways to classify that in these different spectrums and everything. But, when I always talk to the sales reps, I said, you have to always have a discussion with a surgeon through that clinical lens, through that analytic lens. I think that if you can master, the ego and keep that in check, surgeons, physicians with that clinical, that analytic background really are set up ideally, Vik, for investing in real estate. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you talk about the analytical mind.
Yeah.
When I'm coaching a lot of my high performance doctor clients all over the country, it's their superpower, but it's also there's a dark side to their superpower. And how do you know you have this analytical mind? Well, me and Chris, we use sophisticated tools such as the DISC score, DISC score, right?
There you go. Yeah.
And so when you do that DISC score, it's very simple. You can do it in about 10, 15 minutes. Anywhere in the country can do it. And then when you get the DISC score, if you have a high SC, that means you're really smart, you're conscientious, you can parse through data, come up with decisions. But the problem is, with analysis can come paralysis, as we know. And the problem with physicians is sometimes they, instead of analyze, they analyze. And they get to the point where, it's very for them to make a decision. So ready, aim. No, let me check it one more time. Aim, and then fire. Yeah. As entrepreneurs, we found that success loves speed, as both our mentor, Craig Ballantyne, likes to say, and delay kills dreams. And the problem is, you have to be imperfect. You have to have imperfect knowledge and take imperfect action and course correct along the way to be successful in business and entrepreneurship. But that imperfection can harm you in medicine, because that could kill a patient. And so learning to navigate nuances is what the next breed of doctors is doing. So the doctors that were practicing from the 70s to the 90s was this, generation 1 or generation 2 docs they're uber wealthy, uber successful, and they thought they could do anything, and they made great successes, but great failures. This next generation of doctors that I'm seeing are very savvy. They're starting to get, they're reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad early on. Yeah. They're going to conferences. They're realizing that their identity is not just a doctor. I'm a doctor, but I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a father. I love rock climbing, and I do this and this and this. And so, we have so many friends in common who are physicians, but they're doing so many things outside the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so I love this new breed of physicians, and that's who I'm speaking to like right now, or the new breed of entrepreneurs out there where we want to be good at everything, and we're learning that we don't need to do everything ourselves. Sometimes that book, Who Not How, written by Dan Sullivan, really hits home. It's like, hey, what is your superpower? Go and dive into that and build a team around things that are not your superpower, and then you have all the weapons at your disposal.
Yeah. Man, you made so many good points there, Vic. And I think a few things just to kind of tie it together. You know, as a physician, as a surgeon, you've had to rely on your intellect, your training, your risk avoidance to be successful. And really, being in the OR, you're the one. Everything ultimately comes back, on you. Whereas with the entrepreneur, yes, everything comes back on you, but to be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to let go at some point to grow that. I've faced challenges doing this. You and I have discussed this. And it's a real dichotomy, because it's like the old saying, right? What got you here is not going to get you there. Right. And doing that. So, at what point in your practice did you decide, hey, this, I'm going to basically shut down my cardiology practice? Cause that's a pretty amazing thing to do. Right. You spent, with school, all the years, 25 years in school?
Yeah. 26
and then
years.
Training.
Yeah. Yes.
And then you practiced for how many years as a cardiologist?
Almost a decade.
So you trained for 26 years. You, with all due respect, only practiced for a decade. What went through your head when you made that choice, and how did you kind of overcome, that process?
One is like, in our human lifespan, they're saying now, the statistics are saying, like, if you listen to Peter Diamandis, who's a futurist, or some of these other guys out there, they're saying that the average human is going to have 8 or 9 careers in their lifetime, not 8 or 9 jobs, but careers. And so I think adaptability, flexibility, and being dynamic must in your DNA, as anyone who's listening to your podcast right now. And I didn't know all this back then. All I knew was, what's the next step? And you're all about next level, right? Next level income, next level growth, progress. So am I. I love thinking step. So I was not thinking I was going to reinvent the wheel. I was just like, all right, well, cardiology is great. Can I add something on the side? And then what happens is, when your side hustle becomes better than your main hustle, it just makes you reconsider things. And then I was like, look, because I don't have the golden handcuffs. I mean, I'm not worried about income anymore. If you're not worried about income, what would you do in your life? It's similar to the question that a lot of my mentors ask me. Hey, if in 2023 you couldn't fail, what would you take on? Now I'm going to ask that again to your audience. In 2023, if you knew you couldn't fail, what else would you take on? Right. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't like practicing traditional cardiology, because I think that's reactive. That's going to where the puck already is. And as we all know, we want to go to where the puck will go, right? That's what Wayne Gretzky did and made him great. And so how do we, how do I anticipate where medicine's going? And so one of the things I wanted to do was, I want to go upstream. So I started talking about how to reverse cardiology diseases. How do I actually go anti-aging versus active aging? How do I take people and make them not have diabetes or insulin resistance or belly fat? And then I'm at this point is like, now with my coaching, another component of it is, I still think that's not enough. Now I'm like, all right, that's great. A lot of folks who are still like having issues, and we're not trying to reverse it. But now I'm trying to take people like Chris Larson, who is an absolute all-star rock star in peak health. And he's like, I want to live to 120, right? How is LeBron playing?
122, but yeah, okay.
How is LeBron James, who just when you guys are listening to this, I don't know when, but LeBron James just passed the all-time career record for points in the NBA.
Amazing.
And he's 38, right? How much money is he investing in his body to where literally he probably biologically he has a 30-year-old body, 25-year-old body? And if you did that, and you're just thinking about the lens of what Chris teaches you and coaches on, which is income, Now you're extending your capacity for your life wealth span. Call it a wealth span, right? You have your lifespan, your health span, and your wealth span. Now your wealth span is just doubled or quadrupled, right? So you're more likely to hit your net worth goals. You're going to create legacy wealth for your children. So there's so much to it. So now, like, back to your question about coaching. So now my mission on earth is to literally up level every single human soul that I'm in front of, and I'm going to help them achieve the easy stuff. And I'm saying easy doesn't mean you have achieved it, Chris, and we are helping a lot of people already achieve it. We know time freedom and financial freedom are there, but what about this mindset freedom where literally they have equipoise? A divorce happens, but they can withstand it and move through and find the next companion, perhaps. You know, someone in their family died, you know, how that a business challenge, like me and you face so many business challenges. We can handle that, but then we can come up with solutions and become resourceful, right? And not wait for someone to bail us out. And then finally, the vitality freedom. How do we literally re-engineer our body to where we can keep with our kids to where when they become 18, 19, 20, 25, they still have to struggle as we're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro or you climb Mount Rainier.
Damn right.
Right?
Damn
That's
right.
what I'm talking about. So
absolutely.
I invite the listeners here to say, look, let's raise the standards on everything. This is not a financial show. This is a coaching show. This is not a mindset show. This is not a physician show. This is not a real estate show. This is a life show where I want you guys to stake your claim at what's possible in life, and let's go after it.
The biggest and best real estate syndication event of the summer is back, and I want you to join me there. I'm very excited to announce that I will be a guest speaker at MFinCon 2023, which is taking place live in Charlotte this June 12th through the 14th. You can learn more and get your ticket at www.mfincon.com. That's mfincon.com, or MFincon, as Shat called it last year. Also, I'm sending you a special promo code because if you're serious about apartment syndication, multifamily investing, just real estate investing and commercial real estate in general, MFinCon is for you. I'll be speaking alongside an excellent lineup of over 70 real estate experts and professionals, as well as celebrity guest speakers, A-Rod, that's Alex Rodriguez, Dr. Robert Cialdini, and Mark King. The opportunities at this event for networking are endless, and you do not want to miss out on the great sessions that are planned. My promo code is next level. That's all caps, next level, and you'll get $200 off your ticket. Again, go to mfincon.com. Get $200 off your ticket with promo code next level today. Heck yeah. I love it, man. So underlying all that, Vic, and first off, like I spent time with Vic. I can tell you that like this is how he thinks all of the time. I worked out with him. We've done presentations together. The thing is, the way what Vic just laid out, what Dr. Raya just laid out, is different than your traditional thought processes, right? People say, hey, I'm going to have a career. I'm going to retire. That's very small thinking. I'm going to, live to be 70, 80 years old. Well, how would your life change? Not only if you couldn't fail in 2023, but how would your life change if instead of being 80, you were 90, 100, 120, 122, like I just talked about? Vic, you said you can double your wealth or quadruple your wealth. The thing is, if you live those extra years, as we all know, the magic of real estate, you hold on, it's compounding interest, right? It's leverage and compound interest. All the things you talked about, all are underlined by that exponential growth, changing your thinking from linear to exponential. So if you don't accept what conventional wisdom says in finance, if you don't accept that you have to wait until you get sick to seek care and better treatment, if you don't accept that, I'm gonna get old and I'm gonna get slow, I can't keep up with my kids. My son's like, Dad, I'm gonna beat you when I'm 13 on the bike. I said, you just bought yourself another 3 years because I'm gonna train my butt off to do that. Find people like Dr. Raya that can help push you, change your mindset, and then surround yourself with people that can help expand your skill set to achieve what you now believe can be done.
And I love what you said about that. I love the story about your son too. That's awesome. What really thrills me is this. Look, like Chris, you follow what he says, you listen to his podcast, you work with him. He's going to get you a 7-figure income. But let's talk about 7-figure relationship. Let's talk about, do you have a 7-figure relationship with your wife? Like, do you have a 7-figure relationship with your children where they're like, I want to be like my dad? Like, or seven-figure charitable strategy. Like, what's your foundation look like? How many people are you going to help and touch before you die? Yeah. Like there's a quote that from one of my favorite authors, Robin Sharma. He goes, live your life in such a way that, when you're born, you cry and the world rejoices. And so live your life in such a powerful way so that when you die, you rejoice while the world cries. I'm like, boom, like that's a mic
that
drop.
is amazing.
Like that's like, I want to be fully spent when I'm 123, 1 year after Chris. Right? I want to be fully spent because, man, I maxed out my life, right? And so it's and how do we do this, right? Let's get tangible here. What's your morning routine look like?
Yeah.
Are you and everyone sets big goals, like 10-year goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals. You know what I found the problem is with that, Chris? I found the problem is they don't connect their short-term strategies and tactics to their long-term goals. So they have all these big visions, which, okay, granted, most of the country do any of this, but the high performers that we talk to, 30% of them in the world, they do the big goals, but they don't know what this week, this hour, this minute, and this translates into their quarterly goals, which translate into their annual goals. That's the gap miss. They may have an annual goal, but then they know they have 12 months to do it. So they sit on their butt for 9 months, and then they try to push hard for the last 3, and it doesn't happen. And then they get disappointed and they reset their goals, or they downgrade their goals, or they alter their goals because it's impossible.
Yeah.
And so if you are tactical and say, hey, look, there's a book by Brian Moran called The 12-Week Year, and he really outlines, stop living your life in 12-month terms. Pretend you only have 12 weeks on this earth, and you act in unison. Your team is rowing in the same direction, and you're all focused, and you're asking the question, hey, I have to tell you a story. So the British Olympic team sucked for like many years, and they brought in this consultant and this coach, and then he basically asked one question: will this make the boat go faster? Yeah. And they had 4 years before the next Olympics, and they were worst in their league. And so they're like, oh, this different outfit will make it go faster. Great. Hey, we're going out to the pub on Friday night, make the boat go faster. No, it won't, because I'm going to be hungover the next. Okay, great. I won't do that. Well, eating donuts? No, because I'll be fat. Okay, great. Okay, well, sleeping better? Yes. Okay, great. And hey, if we get our hair cut in a certain way, fine. So anyway, all these little micro decisions kept going to the main focusing question: will this make the boat go faster? And literally in 4 years, they went from worst team to best team, got the gold medal. Yeah. So the question is, what is that focusing question? And yes. I would urge you, say, instead of the 12-month question, ask a 12-week question, the 90-day question. Will this, and once you have that linear goal delineated out, every action in these next 12 weeks to hit that goal. But if we're always pushing ourselves so hard, Doc, aren't you going to burn out? Yes, you will. That's why the 13th week you take a break, and you have like sort of a refueling cycle. And then you push another 12 weeks, and then the 13th is a refueling cycle. That's why, Chris, where'd you guys go? Where'd you go skiing? You went skiing somewhere, didn't you?
We just skied in Big Sky. Yeah, we got the next one set up here. Absolutely, yeah.
So Chris, he follows this. I mean, literally, the guy is like crushing it in all his categories, with his family, with his work, with his podcast, with his investors, and then he decompresses, and then he gears up. He gets his psychic energy, his emotional energy, his physical energy, and then boom, he's out at it again.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think, if we think in cycles, right? And that's another thing, like conventional, right? Wisdom, right? We do, get in your routine and do that. It's okay not to be balanced. And that's, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. We talk about work-life balance. It's like, well, it's okay to not be balanced. Athletes aren't balanced, like that rowing team that you mentioned. We go deep. I was at the gym this morning, right? I'm like laying on the floor in a pool of my own sweat at the end of the workout. I'll train hard for a few days, and then I'll take not like a day off or a half day off. I'll take 2 days off, 3 days off. I'll totally recharge so I can go back in there and have that intensity. And if you look at any great athletes, they train hard and then they have days off. They have uptime, they have downtime. entrepreneurs, if you're out there trying to achieve things, you need to be okay with that. You can't run 16 hours a day and not burn out. You need time to recharge. So I think when I plan my years, Vic, I love the quarterly plan, and maybe that's the sales guy and me going back to the quarterly quotas that I used to have, but I always plan my vacations first. And I know Craig has been big on this, our coach, which is, hey, when are you going to take your time with your family? What are those most important things? Our kids are similar ages. I say, okay, how am I going to spend time with my family and do this? And then I plan stuff around that. How do you help your coaching clients, really take that 12-week model that you said and then map it out over the course of the 12 months? Because a lot of people that are high achievers are saying, well, I don't want to take time off. I want to just go. That's not the best thing to do.
Yeah. Well, one of the I like to do is there's so much circling around in some of these guys' heads that the first thing I usually do is we create sort of what I call a limitless, our company is called Limitless MD. And so we really create this limitless map where, tell me your goals. And we go really short term because I want a quick win. And then I go, 1, 3, 5 year and long term. Then we talk about, this is all great, but there's something called ends goals and means goals, Chris. And I know you know this. Means goals are like, look, I want to create $1 million. Great. So that what? So that, I want to retire my parents. They've been working their whole lives and they've never had a decent vacation. I would love to take them on a vacation. Or, hey, look, I want to buy my mom a house. She's always lived in apartments, right? That's the end goal. But sometimes we forget if there's other ways to get to the end goal, there's better ways. So I always figure out what are you really chasing, And how do you know this, if it's a means goals or ends goal? Because usually it's, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And then if it ends with so that means that's not the final destination.
Gotcha.
So I have the goals laid out. I sort of get a pulse on where they are in all their life categories. Then I talk about what they're really chasing. Then we get interesting. We go into their head trash. What the heck? Like, the way I see it is, let me see if I don't have it in front of me, but if you imagine, like, if you had a rubber band right here, and you have like 2 or 3 fingers pushing out against the rubber band, and you have one finger pulling back, that's your limiting beliefs. That's your head trash. The moment you release that head trash, boom, what happens? That rubber band launches forward.
Love that.
As a coach, as a consultant, as sort of a mentor, you want people to go through your head trash. So you're going to vomit out a ton of information to them, and they're going to piece through and they're going to go through all that. It's gross, but it's what happens. It's gross what people put in their head anyway. And you're like, all right, that's what's holding you back. What if that wasn't true? How do you know that's true? What if I challenge it? What if we reconfigure that belief? Boom, they get released. And then what we do is, it's good to have that rah, good feeling, but then you really need to have an action plan. So you come up with a 30-day action plan, and then boom, they're on their way. And then the last thing is accountability. And so there's 3 types of accountability. There's self-accountability. There's peer accountability, like you're around, the 5 people you're around with kind of theme or meme you hear. And then finally, there's professional accountability. People like me or you, Chris, where we're like, look, I got your back. I'll take a bullet for you, but also going to kick your butt. Let's go.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. And that's so important. If you have the plan, you have all these things in place, but you must have that accountability to keep pushing you forward, especially when you reach the level that you are at. And a lot of people that are listening, if you're at a high level, you need to find people that can push you to go to a higher level. Because most of the people that are around you, they're like, oh, take a break. You're doing okay. You need to find those people that are constantly pushing you to do more, achieve what you're capable of. And that's what really gives you the juice of life to get excited. I heard Jesse Itzler speak a couple of weeks ago. Awesome. And this is a guy, he and his wife, billionaires. Sarah Blakely's his wife, started Spanx, and Jesse's 50-something years old. He's got like 10 years on his Vic. He's running 100-mile races, right? And he tells a story about running with a gentleman called Chad Wright. So look it up, Jesse Itzler and Chad Wright. And the topic of this conversation was words matter. And what you just said, your thoughts matter, your words matter. Those are your limiting beliefs. And he talked about getting from mile 70 to 100 in this race just by using the thoughts and words in his head. And he said, there's no way I thought this was even possible, but it is. Our minds are amazing. And that's exactly what you teach, with your coaching with Limitless.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So Vik, a lot of people, kind of shifting gears here a little bit as we wrap up, a lot of people as we're here in 2023, there's a lot of uncertainty swirling around, in the world, in investments. What are some things that your company's doing in 2023 to focus on the opportunities that you see that are out there?
So one of the things is really understanding and getting an accurate representation of the world, not seeing how worse than it is, not seeing how better than it is, just getting an accurate representation.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Well, I don't care what industry you're in, but there's always trade shows, information, conferences, things like that. So you go there, you talk to, people who are than you, who are starting out, who are, industry leaders. You read publications, you read the news, and then you get in a sense of assessment what's going on. Number two, you realize that history maybe doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yeah.
So recognize patterns. And so
100%.
One of the things I do at the beginning is, one, just to be aware that there are patterns in the world and cycles and things that repeat. Number two, understand those patterns and use them to your advantage. And finally, number three, when you become big enough and you become, the leader of your industry, or you become the master, you start creating patterns that other people follow. So what I've done is, one, I've really, we have these annual retreats for both my companies. And so for MD, we met, we discussed, we create goals. We took into account headwinds and tailwinds. We took account new information that we've gotten, capabilities, new partners, and we've made goals, and we're very strategically going after them. Similar to Viking Capital, we're like, all right, how did we do last year? What went wrong? Are all the right people in the right seats? Is there people that we need to add or people need to subtract? Who can we coach up and who can we cut out? And then it's like, all right, are we all rowing, like we talked about, rowing the same direction? And boom. And then it's, as a leader of the companies, giving them confidence, making sure that there's still alignment with the vision and the mission. And also, is it like, for example, in multifamily, like, we're not just about chasing units and chasing AUMs, assets under management. We decided, hey, each one of those units is actually a family. So how many families are we helping this year? That sounds more exciting than, I have that 400 more units. Okay, fine. Or 1,000 more units. But 1,000 more families? Hell yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Perhaps reframing, what your goals are, sort of meaningful. My partner, Ravi Gupta, he loves ESG, environmental sustainability, growth, green energy. And so we're like, hey, how do we, can we add solar, car chargers? Yeah. Because everyone's starting to get EVs to our apartment complexes. And if it's free, why not? And it adds additional, value add, if you will. So it's being innovative. If I had to just share a quick piece of insight to your listeners, when you're first starting out, you're imitating people better than you. Next, you start iterating. You see what they're doing. Oh, Chris, I like what he's doing. But you know what? I'm actually going to add a little bit of my own spice to it. That's second level iteration. And then finally, you know what? I'm going to do something completely different that Chris has never done before. I'm going to innovate. And so that's sort of the 3I methodology that both our companies use.
Yeah. You've come so far, Vik. You got so much further to go. If people are listening and they want to work with you, they want to learn more about your company and learn how to go faster on their journey, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way is just my personal website, vikramraya.com. That's VIKRAMRAYA.com. And you can get a hold of me that way.
Awesome. Vik, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Love to have you on. Love that you share with the audience. We're going to have you back on. Thanks so much.
Yeah, keep rocking, man.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.